Day 3. Christ calls you to be a generous giver. Key verses. But this I say. He who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. So let each one give as he purposes in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. 2 Corinthians 9:6-7. Jesus sets a high bar when it comes to our financial responsibility. He calls us not only to give but also to give with a generous spirit. Yet what He gives us is not a financial burden, it is an opportunity, a chance to demonstrate a mature, active, and difference-making faith. As the devastated rich young ruler discovered in Mark 10:17-22, a person's attitude toward money and possessions reveals more about him or her than perhaps the person cares to know. For one thing, giving generously demonstrates proper gratitude to God. When we give, we acknowledge what has been given to us. We give to others from the bounty of God's blessings in our life. Generosity is an outflow of our celebration of God's goodness. Our giving also demonstrates a proper attitude toward God. In Matthew 6:1-4, Jesus instructs us to give with as little fanfare as possible. In fact, our generosity should be so low-key that our left hand doesn't know what our right hand is doing. That prevents us from wrongly receiving credit for God's work. It also focuses people's attention on Him. If God doesn't receive all the glory for our giving, we're doing something wrong. That presents a very real challenge in our social media obsessed society, where news of generous acts routinely goes viral. Our giving also reveals a heart for others. In order for us to give as God instructs us to do, we must be aware of others' needs, the needs of the church, the needs of various ministries, the needs of friends and acquaintances who are experiencing difficulties, the needs of people in our community. The more we search for ways to give generously, the more we become aware of people's needs. Generous giving is a key element of discipleship because it acknowledges that we trust God to supply our needs. In Mark 12:41-44, Jesus staked out the temple treasury, where people came to make their offerings. He watched several ostentatious givers loudly announce their gifts by tossing handfuls of bronze coins into the trumpet bell that served as a collection device. Yet the only offering that truly moved him came from a widow who quietly offered 2 mites, coins that had very little value to anyone but her. That's because they were all she had. The faithfulness, obedience, and trust of her offering made it priceless in God's eyes. And if we give with the same spirit, our gifts will accomplish much.
Remember this, a farmer who plants only a few seeds will get a small crop, but the one who plants generously will get a generous crop. You must each decide in your heart how much to give. And don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, for God loves a person who gives cheerfully.
But beware, for you will be handed over to the courts, and will be flogged with whips in the synagogues. You will stand trial before governors and kings because you are my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell the rulers and other unbelievers about me. When you are arrested, don't worry about how to respond or what to say. God will give you the right words at the right time, for it is not you who will be speaking. It will be the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. A brother will betray his brother to death. A father will betray his own child, and children will rebel against their parents and cause them to be killed. And all nations will hate you because you are my followers. But everyone who endures to the end will be saved. Watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. When you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth. They have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. Jesus sat down near the collection box in the temple and watched as the crowds dropped in their money. Many rich people put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I tell you the truth. This poor widow has given more than all the others who are making contributions. For they gave a tiny part of their surplus. But she, poor as she is, has given everything she had to live on.